Hey guys, this is trinomial factoring, and let's be a little more specific up here at the top for a equals 1. And what that means is that the leading coefficient of the very first number, I'm going to skip down here where it says number 1, that's understood to be a 1 right there. And number 2, that's understood to be 1w squared. And on number 3, 1r to the second. So that's what we're talking about there. If there's a number in front there that's bigger than 1, you're going to want to check out the a greater than 1 video. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go backwards here to start just to illustrate a point, which is factoring means something times something. So if we were to multiply these two guys out using FOIL, and if you need to remember how to do FOIL, please feel free to go back to chapter 3 videos. First guy times the first guy would be that. Now I'm going to put these two together as we go just to make it a little quicker. If I multiply the outside 2, that'd be 8x. If I multiply the inside 2, it'd be negative 21x. And if I combine those, I get a negative 13x. And then the last one times the last one will be the 7 times the 8, which is 56. And it would be negative. So my point is this. We started off with a pair of binomials. And when we multiplied them together, we got a trinomial. So we're going to try to undo it. In other words, again, factoring is something times something. So on the second half of the notes right here, here's a trinomial. Well, hopefully it would make sense that that must have been a FOIL problem to start with. So to come up with it, here's how you want to go, or here's how you want to proceed. You want to concentrate, first of all, on the guy that's right here in the front. And you got to say to yourself, well, hey, what times what is x squared? Well, obviously, x times x is x squared. So if you're reversing the FOIL process, this guy right here better be the things that you write first in the parentheses. And then we're going to skip down here to the 72, get to the 17 in a second. And the 72 is the last thing. So the last thing in the parentheses better multiply to get together to give you 72. Now there's more than one way to get 72. And I'm going to go ahead and write the correct factoring here. And I will prove to you why it's correct. So 8 times 9 is 72, but there's 2 times 36 is 72, and 4 times 18 there are others. I would hope you think, since the entire problem was positives or plus signs, that is likely to be the case in my answer, which would be a bunch of plus signs. So here's how we just check to see if we did it right. I mean, we already know that this guy and this guy is going to give me x squared. That's why we chose it. We already know that 8 times 9 is going to give me 72. So that's covered. So the only thing I need to make sure is if the O and the I in FOIL will give me a 17 total. So we just have to check it. We'll multiply the outside 2 together, which is 9x. Multiply the inside 2 together, which is 8x. And what do those two guys add up to? Well, they add up to 17x, and lo and behold, we have a 17x in the middle of that problem. So really, these aren't that bad, and you will, if you take the time to check them like I just showed you, you're pretty much guaranteed of being right. So let's try a couple more examples here. So the one example labeled number 1, don't know why I had an extra one up there, but I did. So what we're saying is every time you see a trinomial, we're going to end up basically doing or undoing a FOIL problem. So again, here's how you do it. This guy is first in the problem. Therefore, I want to put something times something that would give me that first in my parentheses. This guy is last in the problem. I want to put something times something that will give me 30 that goes last in the parentheses. So then we're going to have to check here eventually to see if that's correct, because what else would give you 30? Well, we could go 3 times 10. We could go 2 times 15. And we could even go 1 times 30. So why 6 and 5? Well, here's why. Okay, now first of all, let's concentrate on the sign. I had a positive 30. And that either means I had to have a positive 6 times a positive 5 or a negative times a negative. So if you check out the guy in the middle, he is not positive. So I can't use a pair of positives. I'm going to have to use a pair of negatives. But again, does that still give you positive 30? Does negative 6 times negative 5 give you positive 30? And the answer is yes. So once you get this far, you would be a fool if you do not take the time to check it. Because if you check it, you're going to know if you're right. So all I have to do is multiply the outside two guys together and the inside two guys together and see what I get. So if I multiply those two outer guys, I'm going to get negative 5y. If I multiply the guys closest together, the inside guys, I get negative 6y. And do those add up to negative 11? And the answer is yes. And you have a negative 11 in the middle of that problem, which guarantees that you're right. Okay, number 2. So all we're doing with these is slapping down two sets of parentheses. So I start off with the w squared, and I go, well, w times w gives me w squared. Then I drop down here to the 40. So a couple different ways to get 40, right? We got 4 times 10. We got 2 times 20. We got 5 times 8. And we got 1 times 40. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the signs first, and this maybe help you figure out which combination is going to be right. I'm supposed to get a negative. I don't know what just happened there. I'm supposed to get a negative 40. And if I'm supposed to get a negative number, I got to have a positive times a negative. Well, if I combine those two, a positive and a negative, that means I'm going to have to actually subtract to get the middle guy. So which combination will subtract to give you 3? Well, 10 minus 4 is 6. That's not it. 20 minus 2 is 18. That's not it. 1 and 40 is nowhere close. Well, how about a 5 and an 8? So the question is, which one goes where? Now, again, I'll tell you what. I'm going to intentionally do it wrong just to illustrate a point. If you don't check these, you're crazy. If I multiply the outside 2, and I multiply the inside 2, and I combine those, I get negative 3w. Well, what's right here? I get a positive 3w. So what's wrong? I simply have my signs backwards. So let's see if I can get this. There we go. And if my signs were backwards, then all I have to do is go back and flip-flop them. So if I made that one plus instead, made that one, and I rechecked it, that would have been positive, and this guy would have been negative, and now they do give me a positive 3w. So it checks. It's perfect. All right, last one, number 3. 2 parentheses. I got an r squared. I got to go r times r to get that. On the other end, I got a 36q squared. So you can start thinking ahead on this. Well, how do you get 36? 6 times 6. Well, that's not going to get me a 5 in the middle. How about a 9 and a 4? So you can check one way or the other. If I add 9 and 4, I get 13, and that's definitely not the 5. But what if I did 9 minus 4? Well, 9 minus 4 would be 5, and that's going to work. So I go with a 9 and a 4. You just got to figure out the signs. Here's another little trick. If the guy in the middle is negative, then the bigger number that you used, that 9, better be negative. And the 4 is going to have to be positive. And the reason being, how do I get a negative 36? Well, a negative times a positive. So I left the q squared off, but it's just as easy. If you're going to put r and r to get r squared, what do you have to put to get a q squared? You would have to put q and q. And I didn't exactly leave myself a lot of room there, did I? All right, Mr. Sloppy is almost finished with this problem, but let's double check it. I multiply those two guys. I get 4rq. If I multiply those two guys, I get negative 9rq. If you combine those, do you get negative 5rq? And you do, and that's this guy right here. And you are guaranteed of being right because we just checked it. All right, folks, thanks for watching. Again, there are plenty of videos available for each kind. This was just for trinomials. A is greater than 1. Thanks for watching.